In the vast expanse of the ancient Persian plateau, where the wind carries whispers of forgotten prayers across endless horizons, and the stars burn with a clarity unknown to modern eyes, there existed a vision of the cosmos that bridged the earthly and the divine. Beneath skies that stretched like dark velvet scattered with diamonds, in temples where sacred flames flickered against stone walls worn smooth by countless generations of worshippers, the people of ancient Iran understood their world as a living theater of cosmic forces, a battlefield where light struggled eternally against darkness, where truth contended with falsehood, and where divine beings walked alongside mortal humanity in the great drama of existence. These divine beings, known in the ancient Avestan tongue as the Yazatas, were neither distant, unknowable gods dwelling in unreachable celestial realms, nor simple abstractions representing human virtues. They were something altogether more profound, more immediate, more vital to the functioning of the universe itself. The very word Yazata carries within its syllables the essence of reverence and sacred power. Derived from the Avestan root yaz, meaning to worship, to venerate, to hold as holy, the term speaks to beings worthy of adoration, entities deserving of the highest respect and devotion that human hearts could offer. In the neighboring traditions of ancient India, a parallel word existed in the Vedic Sanskrit, yajata, carrying almost identical meanings of worship and sacrifice. This linguistic connection reveals the deep antiquity of these concepts, reaching back to a time before the Indo-European peoples divided into separate nations, back to an era when their ancestors shared common campfires beneath the same stars, telling stories of the sacred powers that animated the world around them. The reconstructed Proto-Indo-European root from which these words spring is believed to be ye-tu-da, carrying connotations of worship, reverence, and sacred sacrifice, suggesting that the impulse to recognize and honor divine powers in nature and cosmos existed at the very foundations of Indo-European religious consciousness. But the Yazatas were not mere linguistic fossils, not simply archaic terms preserved in dusty scrolls. They represented a living, breathing cosmology, a way of understanding reality that permeated every aspect of ancient Persian life. From the moment the sun first touched the eastern mountains, painting them in shades of rose and gold, to the hour when darkness finally claimed the western deserts, the Yazatas were present, active, and engaged with the world of mortal experience. They were the invisible hands that guided the flowing of waters from mountain springs, the unseen forces that coaxed green shoots from the earth each spring, the divine attention that watched over contracts made between merchants and bustling bazaars, and treaties sealed between kings determining the fates of nations.
The earliest textual evidence for the Yazatas appears in the Avesta, the sacred collection of Zoroastrian scriptures that preserves the ancient wisdom of the Persian people. Within these texts, particularly in the oldest layers known as the Gathas, which many scholars believe may preserve the actual words of Zarathustra himself, the prophet who was understood to have reformed and systematized the ancient Iranian religion, we find references to beings worthy of worship, to sacred powers that assist the supreme deity in maintaining cosmic order. These references are sometimes frustratingly brief, sometimes poetically obscure, leaving later generations to piece together the fuller picture of Yazata theology from scattered verses and liturgical formulas. What emerges from careful study of these ancient texts is a vision of divine hierarchy and cosmic organization that places the Yazatas in a unique and essential position within the structure of reality. At the apex of this hierarchy stands Ahura Mazda, the wise lord, the supreme creator deity, whose name combines the Avestan words for lord and wisdom. Ahura Mazda is uncreated, eternal, the source of all goodness, truth, and light. Unlike the sometimes capricious or limited gods of other ancient Near Eastern pantheons, Ahura Mazda represents perfect wisdom, absolute goodness, and unlimited creative power. He is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and Omega of existence, the divine consciousness that conceived of creation and brought it into being through his sacred utterance. Yet Ahura Mazda does not rule alone, nor does he maintain creation through solitary effort. This is where the Yazatas entered the cosmic drama, serving as intermediaries, messengers, and active agents of the divine will. They are, in the evocative language of Zoroastrian theology, the good powers under Ahura Mazda, the worthy ones who stand in the presence of the supreme deity and carry out his purposes throughout the many levels of existence. Some Yazatas embody abstract qualities and moral virtues, truth and righteousness, good thought and devotion, becoming personified principles that guide human ethical development. Others manifest as the sacred forces of nature, fire and water, sun and moon, stars and winds, revealing the divine presence within the material world itself. The Yazatas exist within a carefully articulated cosmological framework that distinguishes them from other categories of divine beings in the Zoroastrian pantheon. They are not to be confused with the Amesha Spentas, the holy immortals or bounteous immortals, who represent the highest tier of divine emanations from Ahura Mazda himself, so closely identified with the supreme deity that they might be understood as aspects or attributes of his own divine nature made manifest. Nor are the Yazatas identical with the Fravashis, the guardian spirits and pre-existing souls that protect and guide both the living and the dead, serving as archetypal ideals and spiritual protectors.
Each category of divine being has its proper place, its specific function, its unique relationship to both the divine source and to mortal humanity. The ancient Persian world in which the concept of the Yazatas first took shape was a landscape of stark contrasts and overwhelming beauty. High mountain ranges whose snow-capped peaks seemed to touch the very vault of heaven gave way to fertile valleys where rivers flowed in silver ribbons through fields of wheat and barley. These valleys, in turn, melted into vast deserts, where wind-sculpted dunes shifted like waves on an ocean of sand, and where the silence was so profound that one could hear the beating of one's own heart. In this dramatic landscape, the seasonal cycles took on existential significance. The coming of spring rains meant the difference between abundance and starvation. The reliable return of the sun each morning was not taken for granted but celebrated as victory over the forces of darkness and chaos. It was against this backdrop of natural drama and agricultural necessity that the Yazatas became not merely theological concepts, but practical necessities for survival and flourishing. When a farmer prayed to Tishtrya, the star deity who brought seasonal rains, it was not abstract devotion, but desperate hope that his fields would receive the moisture needed for crops to grow. When a merchant invoked Mithra before sealing an important contract, he was calling upon the cosmic force of truth and oaths to ensure that agreements would be honored and deception punished. When a mother lit a lamp before the image of Anahita while praying for a child, she was reaching out to the great mother goddess of waters and fertility, whose blessings could mean the continuation of family lines and the joy of new life. The geographic setting of ancient Persia, situated at the crossroads of great civilizations, meant that the concept of the Yazatas was not developed in isolation, but evolved through contact with neighboring cultures and religious traditions. To the east, the Vedic traditions of India shared common Indo-Iranian roots, preserving parallel deities under slightly different names and attributes. To the west, the sophisticated civilizations of Mesopotamia, with their complex pantheons and elaborate mythologies, provided both parallels and contrasts to Persian religious thought. To the north, nomadic peoples of the steppes maintained their own relationships with sky gods and nature spirits. This rich cultural environment meant that the Yazatas both influenced and were influenced by the divine beings of surrounding peoples, creating a dynamic and evolving theological tradition. Yet despite these external influences and the natural evolution of religious thought over centuries and millennia, certain core principles remained constant in the understanding of the Yazatas.
They were always understood as beings worthy of worship, deserving of reverence and sacrifice.
They were consistently portrayed as allies of Ahura Mazda in the cosmic struggle against evil and chaos. They were invariably associated with the maintenance of Asha, that fundamental concept so central to Zoroastrian thought, which can be translated variously as truth, righteousness, order, or the cosmic law that governs all existence. And they were perpetually available to mortal humanity, willing to hear prayers, accept offerings, and intervene in human affairs on behalf of those who honored them with proper ritual and ethical conduct. The relationship between humanity and the Yazatas was not one of distant worship directed toward unreachable deities. Rather, it was conceived as a partnership, a collaborative effort to maintain cosmic order and defeat the forces of chaos and destruction. In Zoroastrian theology, human beings are not passive spectators in the cosmic drama, but active participants, warriors in the army of light fighting against darkness. The Yazatas serve as commanders and allies in this battle, lending their strength to mortal efforts, blessing righteous actions, and providing protection against demonic assaults. This partnership transforms religious practice from mere ceremonial obligation into meaningful spiritual warfare with real consequences for the structure of reality itself. To understand the Yazatas more deeply, we must first understand the cosmic stage upon which they act, the great dualistic drama that provides the context for all Zoroastrian theology. At the heart of this drama stands the fundamental opposition between Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu, between the wise lord of light and truth and the destructive spirit of darkness and falsehood. This is not the dualism of equal and eternal opposites, locked in permanent stalemate, as some outside observers have sometimes characterized it. Rather, it is an asymmetric dualism in which good is ultimately more powerful than evil, in which light will finally overcome darkness, in which the creator deity will triumph over the destructive force that opposes him. In the beginning, according to the cosmological texts preserved in Middle Persian works like the Bundahishna, Ahura Mazda dwelt in light and goodness above, in the realm of endless illumination where spiritual beings exist in perfect harmony and truth. Below, separated by an infinite void, Angra Mainyu existed in darkness and ignorance, in a realm of shadows and non-being characterized by destruction and chaos. These two primordial forces existed independently of each other, Ahura Mazda in full knowledge of his opponent through his omniscience, Angra Mainyu initially unaware of the existence of the wise lord due to his limited understanding and backward knowledge. When Angra Mainyu finally became aware of Ahura Mazda and beheld the light above, he was filled with envy and hatred, unable to comprehend or appreciate goodness and truth. Rising from the abyss, he launched an attack, attempting to destroy or corrupt the perfect creation that Ahura Mazda had brought into being. This attack initiated the cosmic battle that would define the nature of existence for thousands of years, transforming the universe into a battlefield where the forces of good and evil would contend for supremacy until the final renovation of reality. According to the cosmology preserved in the Bundahishn, this cosmic conflict unfolds across vast epochs of time. Different versions of the tradition describe periods of 9,000 or 12,000 years, and scholars continue to debate the precise chronology intended by the ancient texts. What remains clear is that creation occurs in distinct phases, each with its own character and purpose. In the first period, Ahura Mazda brought forth creation in a spiritual or minog state, perfect and unblemished,
existing as pure essence without material form. The Amesha Spentas and the Yazatas were created during this time, along with the prototypes of all material beings. This spiritual creation remained in a state of timeless perfection until Ahura Mazda's assault forced the manifestation of the material or Getig realm, bringing time, change, and the possibility of suffering into existence. During the period that followed, Ahura Mazda invaded the material realm, bringing death, disease, decay, and all manner of evils into what had been a perfect creation. The primordial man Gayamard and the primordial bull were struck down, dying the first deaths in a world that had known no mortality. Yet from their deaths came renewal, as from Gayamard's seed came the first human couple, and from the bull's seed came all beneficial animals and plants. Even in death and destruction, the power of good found ways to create new life and new possibilities for triumph over evil. The period that encompasses the historical time in which human beings live their lives is characterized by active struggle between the forces of good and evil, with the Yazatas playing crucial roles as allies and protectors of humanity. This is the era in which prayers are offered, rituals performed, and ethical choices made, all contributing to the eventual victory of good over evil. Zoroastrian tradition suggests that the appearance of Zarathustra, the prophet, marked a turning point in this cosmic struggle, shifting the balance in favor of Ahura Mazda and the forces of truth. Within this grand cosmological framework, the concept of Asha emerges as perhaps the most fundamental principle in all of Zoroastrian thought. And understanding Asha is essential to understanding the role and nature of the Yazatas. Asha is a word rich with meanings, encompassing truth in the sense of correspondence with reality, righteousness in the sense of moral uprightness and ethical conduct, order in the sense of cosmic law and natural regularity, and justice in the sense of each thing receiving what is properly due to it. Asha is the fundamental structure of reality, the pattern according to which creation was designed and by which it should function. The opposite of Asha is Druj, which encompasses falsehood, deception, disorder, and injustice. Druj is not merely the absence of truth, but an active force of corruption and chaos, seeking to undermine the proper functioning of creation and to twist reality away from its intended pattern. Where Asha brings harmony, health, growth, and life, Druj brings discord, disease, decay, and death. The cosmic battle between Ahura Mazda and Ahura Mazda can be understood fundamentally as a battle between Asha and Druj, between the principle of truth and order and the principle of falsehood and chaos. The Yazatas are intimately connected with Asha, serving as its defenders, exemplars, and manifestations in various forms throughout creation. When one invokes a Yazata, one is calling upon a power aligned with truth and order, a force dedicated to maintaining the proper functioning of the cosmos. When one honors a Yazata through ritual and ethical living, one strengthens the forces of Asha in the world and contributes to the eventual defeat of Druj. This is why Zoroastrian texts so frequently refer to the Yazatas as masters of Asha, lords of truth, beings sanctified by righteousness. Among all the divine beings in the Zoroastrian pantheon, the Amesha Spentas occupy a unique position of importance and power, standing closest to Ahura Mazda himself, so intimately connected with the supreme deity that they might be understood as aspects or emanations of his own divine nature. The term Amesha Spenta combines two Avestan words, Amesha, meaning immortal or undying, and Spenta, meaning holy, bounteous, or beneficent. Thus they are the holy immortals or bounteous immortals, the highest tier of divine beings through whom Ahura Mazda manifests his creative power and maintains the structure of creation. The exact number of Amesha Spentas has been a matter of theological discussion, with some traditions counting 6 and others 7. The difference arises from whether one includes Spenta, Mayinyu, the Holy Spirit, as a separate entity, or understands him as Ahura Mazda's creative aspect.
In the earliest texts, particularly the Gathas attributed to Zarathustra himself, Spenta Mayin appears as the creative force through which Ahura Mazda brings the universe into being, the active principle of divine manifestation. Later traditions sometimes identified Spenta Mayin so closely with Ahura Mazda that they became virtually indistinguishable, while at other times maintained the distinction, creating the possibility of counting 7 rather than 6 holy immortals. Each of the Amesha Spentas embodies a fundamental divine attribute while also presiding over a specific aspect of the material creation, creating a bridge between spiritual ideals and physical reality that characterizes Zoroastrian thought. This dual nature means that the Amesha Spentas are simultaneously abstract principles to be cultivated in human conduct and concrete guardians of particular elements of the natural world. When a Zoroastrian seeks to manifest Vohumana, good mind, in his own thoughts and actions, he is also honoring the divine being who watches over all domestic animals and guides souls to paradise. Vohumana, whose name can be translated as good mind, good thought, or good purpose, stands as one of the most important of the Amesha Spentas, frequently mentioned in the Gathas, and playing a central role in Zoroastrian theology. Vohumana represents divine wisdom, proper understanding, and beneficial thinking, the mental clarity that allows one to perceive truth and make righteous choices. In the famous account of Zarathustra's enlightenment, it was Vohumana who appeared to the prophet in shining form, leading him to the presence of Ahura Mazda and initiating his religious mission. This role establishes Vohumana as the mediator between divine wisdom and human comprehension, the means by which transcendent truth becomes accessible to mortal minds. As guardian of domestic animals, particularly cattle, Vohumana protects those creatures that enable human civilization to flourish. In ancient Persian society, where herds represented wealth, sustenance, and economic stability, the protection of cattle was not merely an agricultural concern, but a matter of cosmic significance. The link between good thought and the care of animals reflects the Zoroastrian understanding that ethical conduct extends to all living beings, that the proper functioning of creation depends on compassionate and mindful treatment of the creatures that share the world with humanity. When souls depart the body at death and begin their journey to the afterlife, it is Vohumana who welcomes the righteous to paradise, greeting them as they cross the Chinvat Bridge and enter the House of Song. This eschatological role reinforces Vohumana's association with wisdom and proper judgment, as it is right thinking in life that determines one's destination after death. The Zoroastrian who cultivates Vohumana in his earthly existence prepares himself for the ultimate meeting with this divine being in the world beyond. Asha Vahishta, best truth or best righteousness, embodies the principle of Asha itself in its most perfect and complete form. If Asha is the fundamental cosmic law, the pattern of truth and order that structures reality, then Asha Vahishta is that principle elevated to divine personality, truth itself made into a conscious, active force for good. This Amesha Spenta presides over fire, that most sacred of elements in Zoroastrian practice, the visible manifestation of divine light and purity that burns at the heart of every Zoroastrian temple. Fire in Zoroastrian thought is far more than a useful tool or pleasant source of warmth and light. Fire is the very substance of truth, the material expression of Asha, burning away impurity and falsehood wherever it appears. The sacred fires maintained in fire temples are not worshipped as gods themselves, but venerated as living representatives of Asha Vahishta, physical presences of the divine principle that orders all creation. Different grades of sacred fire exist, from the simple household hearth to the great Atash Baharams, the fires of victory that require years of ritual preparation and purification before they can be installed in their temples.
The relationship between Asha Vahishta and fire extends to the broader association of this Amesha Spenta with all forms of heat, light, and energy. The sun burning in the sky, the warmth that courses through living bodies, the spark that animates consciousness itself, all partake of Asha Vahishta's nature. In Zoroastrian cosmology, the entire created order follows patterns of natural law, seasons following their appointed courses, waters flowing according to predictable rhythms, plants growing in accordance with their inherent natures. These patterns are manifestations of Asha, expressions of the cosmic truth that Asha Vahishta guards and maintains. For human beings, Asha Vahishta represents the ideal of absolute truthfulness and moral uprightness. To align oneself with this Amesha Spenta means to speak truth in all circumstances, to fulfill one's obligations faithfully, to maintain one's word even when it proves costly to do so. In a culture where oaths and contracts formed the basis of social order and economic exchange, this emphasis on truthfulness was not abstract moralizing, but practical necessity. Yet it also pointed to a deeper truth, the understanding that reality itself has a moral structure, that truth and falsehood are not merely human conventions, but cosmic principles with metaphysical weight. Kshatravarya, whose name translates to desirable dominion, wished for kingdom, or divine kingdom, embodies divine sovereignty and righteous power. This Amesha Spenta presides over metals, particularly the harder metals from which weapons and tools are forged, and over the sky itself, conceived as a metallic dome of hardest stone encasing the world. The association with metals reflects the ancient Indo-Iranian understanding of sovereignty and warfare, where the possession of metal weapons distinguished ruling classes from common folk and determined outcomes of battles between kingdoms. But Kshatravarya's dominion extends far beyond military might or political authority. This divine being represents the ideal kingdom, the perfect ordering of society under righteous rule, where justice prevails and the weak are protected from oppression. Ancient Persian inscriptions from Achaemenid kings invoke Kshatravarya when describing their duty to maintain order, defend the helpless, and punish wrongdoers. The true kingdom is not merely geographic territory controlled by force, but a moral realm where divine law governs human interactions, and where power serves the cause of truth rather than selfish ambition. In individual human life, Kshatravarya manifests as personal sovereignty, the ability to govern oneself according to truth and righteousness, rather than being enslaved by destructive passions or demonic influences. The person who has achieved Kshatravarya in their own being has brought their thoughts, words, and actions under the rule of Asha, establishing an internal kingdom of order and virtue that reflects the perfect kingdom Ahura Mazda desires for all creation. This internal sovereignty is prerequisite for participation in the cosmic battle against evil, as one cannot fight effectively against external demons while still enslaved to internal ones. Spenta, our mighty, bounteous devotion or holy devotion, brings a distinctly feminine energy to the company of Amesha Spentas, embodying the principles of reverence, humility, and faithful service. Her name combines Spenta, holy or beneficent, with our mighty, a word rich with connotations of devotion, right-mindedness, and harmonious thinking. Spenta our mighty presides over the earth itself, the solid ground beneath human feet, the soil from which plants draw nourishment, and upon which buildings stand firm. The earth in Zoroastrian thought is not inert matter, but living substance,
capable of being defiled by corpses and impurities, or maintained in sacred purity through proper treatment. Spenta Armidi, as guardian of earth, becomes protector of agriculture, patron of those who till the soil and coax sustenance from the ground. In a civilization built on farming and animal husbandry, where the fertility of fields determined whether communities would feast or starve, the divine being who presided over Earth's generative power occupied a position of immense practical importance. Yet Spenta Armidi's significance extends beyond agricultural concerns to encompass the broader principles of devotion and faithful service that her name suggests. This Amesha Spenta represents the proper attitude of creation toward creator, of devotee toward deity, of student toward wisdom. Where pride rebels and arrogance asserts independence from divine authority, Spenta Armidi embodies humble recognition of one's true position within the cosmic order. This is not servile groveling, but mature understanding that human beings flourish when they align themselves with truth rather than asserting false autonomy. For women in ancient Persian society, Spenta Armidi sometimes served as special patron and exemplar, embodying ideals of faithful devotion, nurturing care, and productive labor. Just as earth receives seed and bring forth harvest, women receive new life and bring forth children. Just as earth must be treated with respect and care to remain fertile, women deserve honor and protection to fulfill their proper roles.
These associations reflect the patriarchal structures of ancient society, while also elevating feminine principles to divine status, recognizing that creation requires both masculine and feminine energies working in harmony. Haurvatat and Ameritat, wholeness and immortality, form a paired set of Amesha Spentas, so closely associated that they are rarely mentioned separately. Haurvatat embodies perfection, completeness, and integrity, the state of being whole and undivided. Ameritat represents deathlessness, eternal life, the triumph over mortality and decay. Together, they point toward the ultimate goal of Zoroastrian eschatology, the final renovation when all creation will be restored to its original perfect state and death will be defeated forever. Haurvatat presides over water, that essential element without which no life can exist, which cleanses and purifies, which quenches thirst and nourishes growing things. Sacred springs and rivers fall under Haurvatat's protection, and ritual purifications with water invoke this Amesha Spenta's blessing. The association between wholeness and water reflects the life-giving properties of this element, the way water restores what has been depleted, heals what has been damaged, makes whole what has been fragmented. Ameritat governs plants and vegetation, all the green growing things that cover the earth in their seasons, providing food for animals and humans alike. From the mightiest trees whose roots reach deep into soil and whose branches brush the sky, to the humblest grasses that spring up after spring rains, all fall under Ameritat's care. The connection between immortality and plant life reflects several levels of meaning. Plants seem to die in winter only to return to life in spring, embodying cycles of death and renewal. Plants provide the sustenance that maintains life in mortal bodies, offering a kind of delegated immortality through nourishment. And in the final renovation, it is believed, all vegetation will achieve perfection and deathlessness along with the rest of creation. In human spiritual development, Haurvatat and Ameritat represent the rewards of righteous living, the blessings that come to those who align themselves with Asha and serve Ahura Mazda faithfully. Wholeness of being, integration of thought, word, and deed, harmony of internal faculties, these constitute Haurvatat manifested in individual life. Freedom from spiritual death, preservation of consciousness beyond bodily dissolution, participation in eternal truth,
These represent a meritat, achieved through virtuous conduct and proper devotion. The Amesha Spentas work together as a harmonious whole, each contributing unique qualities while supporting and complementing the others. Vohumana provides the wisdom to perceive truth. Asha Vahista embodies that truth in perfect form. Kshatravarya manifests the power to defend truth against its enemies. Spenta Armaiti offers the devotion to serve truth faithfully.
Haurvatat and Ameritat promise the ultimate rewards of wholeness and immortality to those who remain steadfast. Together they constitute a complete theology of divine attributes and a comprehensive program for human spiritual development. The relationship between the Amesha Spentas and Ahura Mazda has been described using various metaphors. Sometimes they are called emanations, suggesting they flow out from the supreme deity like rays from the sun. Sometimes they are termed attributes, implying they are qualities of Ahura Mazda given independent expression. Sometimes they are understood as aspects or manifestations, different faces of the one divine reality. All these metaphors point toward the same basic truth that the Amesha Spentas are not separate gods competing with Ahura Mazda for worship, but expressions of his own divine nature, ways he makes himself present and active throughout creation. In Zoroastrian ritual and liturgy, the Amesha Spentas receive constant honor and invocation. Each is associated with a specific day of the month in the Zoroastrian calendar, ensuring regular attention and worship. The second day belongs to Vohumana, the third to Asha Vahishta, the fourth to Kshatravarya, the fifth to Spenta Armaiti, the sixth to Haurvatat, and the seventh to Ameritat. On these designated days, special prayers are offered and particular attention given to the domain of the relevant Amesha Spenta. During the central Yasna ceremony, the Zoroastrian liturgy around which temple worship revolves, the Amesha Spentas are represented through physical objects placed on the ritual space. Fire represents Asha Vahishta, burning in its sacred vessel at the heart of the ceremony. Water represents Haurvatat, contained in ritual cups and offered in libation. Milk from cattle honors Vohumana as guardian of domestic animals. Flowers and plants acknowledge Ameritat's dominion over vegetation. Metal implements invoke Kshatravarya's association with metals and sovereignty. The earth itself, whether as the ground on which the ceremony takes place or as ritual furrows traced in sand, calls upon Spenta Armaiti. Through these physical representations, abstract divine principles become tangibly present in worship, bridging the gap between spiritual truth and material reality. For the faithful Zoroastrians seeking to live according to religious law and ethical principles, the Amesha Spentas provide both ideals to emulate and powers to invoke. One strives to manifest good mind in one's thinking, to speak and act in accordance with truth, to exercise righteous authority in one's sphere of influence, to maintain proper devotion in one's worship, to achieve wholeness of character, and to orient one's entire being toward eternal life rather than temporal gratifications. Beyond the exalted company of the Amesha Spentas, yet occupying their own unique and essential place in Zoroastrian cosmology, stand the Fravashis, the guardian spirits whose nature and functions distinguish them from all other categories of divine beings. The very concept of Fravashis reveals depths of Zoroastrian thought about the relationship between spiritual and material realms, between individual identity and cosmic purpose, between mortal existence and eternal essence. The etymology of the word Fravashi has been subject to extensive scholarly debate, with various theories proposed to explain its original meaning and significance. Some scholars connect it to roots suggesting protection or valor, imagining the Fravashis as warrior spirits of fallen heroes. Others link it to concepts of choice or profession of faith, seeing Fravashis as embodiments of commitment to truth. Still others interpret the term
in relation to primal or archetypal existence, understanding Fravashis as original patterns or prototypes that precede material manifestation. What remains clear across all interpretations is that the Fravashis represent some aspect of divine or spiritual essence that exists in relationship to, but not entirely dependent upon, physical embodiment. Every person has a Fravashi, a pre-existing spiritual counterpart that existed before birth and will continue after death. This Fravashi is not identical with the soul that animates the body during life, nor with the consciousness that experiences thoughts and emotions, but something more fundamental, an archetypal ideal of what that person could and should become. A spiritual blueprint guiding development toward perfection. The relationship between an individual and their Fravashi can be understood as similar to the relationship between a painting and the artist's original vision, or between a building and the architect's plan. The Fravashi represents the perfect intention, while the embodied person represents the actual manifestation, which may fall short of, or through effort and grace, approximate the ideal. Throughout life, the Fravashi serves as guide and guardian, subtly influencing toward better choices, protecting from spiritual dangers, helping to realize the higher nature that exists in potential. After death, if the person has lived righteously, the soul unites with its Fravashi, achieving the wholeness and completion that was always intended. This reunion represents not absorption into some impersonal absolute, but fulfillment of individual identity, becoming most truly oneself by merging with the perfect prototype of one's being. The Fravashis exist in three great categories or companies, encompassing all of time and all of existence within their collective scope. First are the Fravashis of the living, the guardian spirits of those currently embodied in material form, walking the earth, breathing air, engaging in the great struggle between good and evil.
These Fravashis watch over their human counterparts, offering subtle guidance, protection from demonic assault, and inspiration toward righteous action. They do not override free will or force correct choices, but they make the path of truth more visible, more attractive, more accessible to those willing to perceive it. Second are the Fravashis of the dead, the guardian spirits of those who have completed their earthly journey and passed through the Chinvat bridge to their eternal destination. These Fravashis have been reunited with the souls of the righteous, achieving the wholeness that represents successful completion of mortal existence. They do not cease to be active or interested in the world of the living, however. Rather, they become even more powerful protectors, able to intercede on behalf of descendants and devotees, to bless those who honor them with prayers and offerings, to fight alongside the living in the ongoing cosmic battle. Third, most mysteriously, are the Fravashis of the yet unborn, the guardian spirits of souls that have not yet been incarnated, that exist in potential, waiting for the proper time and circumstances to take on flesh and join the struggle against evil. These unborn Fravashis participated in the original cosmic choice when the souls of humanity elected to accept embodiment and enter the material realm despite knowing they would face suffering and struggle, in order to contribute to the defeat of Angra Mainyu and the final renovation of creation. This choice reveals profound truths about Zoroastrian anthropology, the understanding that human existence is not punishment or accident, but voluntary participation in cosmic purpose. Together, these three companies of Fravashis constitute an immense spiritual army, vastly outnumbering the forces of evil, providing overwhelming support for Ahura Mazda in his conflict with the destructive spirit. Ancient texts describe how Ahura Mazda depends upon the Fravashis to maintain the cosmos against demonic assault, how their collective power holds heaven and earth in their proper positions, prevents the premature dissolution of creation, and ensures that the appointed cycles continue their ordained courses.
Without the Fravashis, the texts suggest, the material world would collapse into chaos, overwhelmed by the forces of Druj and destruction. The warrior aspects of the Fravashis receive particular emphasis in Zoroastrian scripture and tradition. They are frequently compared to the Valkyries of Germanic mythology, fierce feminine spirits who choose the slain on battlefields and escort heroic dead to celestial halls. Like the Valkyries, the Fravashis are depicted as winged beings who fly through air, swift and terrible in battle, beautiful and benevolent to those they protect.
Artistic representations throughout Persian history show Fravashis as composite creatures, combining human and avian features, winged figures that embody the connection between earth and heaven, mortality and immortality, material and spiritual realms. The connection to Indo-European warrior culture runs deep in the concept of Fravashis. They embody ideals of heroic valor, martial skill, courage in the face of overwhelming odds, loyalty unto death, all virtues prized by ancient aristocratic warrior societies. Yet in the Zoroastrian context, these martial virtues are transformed and elevated, no longer merely serving clan loyalties or personal honor, but directed toward cosmic purposes, fighting not for earthly kingdoms, but for the ultimate triumph of truth over falsehood. One of the most remarkable aspects of Fravashi theology is the myth of their original choice, preserved in the Bundahishan and other Middle Persian texts. According to this account, when Ahura Mazda first created the Fravashis in the spiritual realm, he foresaw the coming assault of Angra Mainyu and the suffering that would result from the mixing of good and evil in material creation. He presented the Fravashis with a choice. They could remain in the peaceful spiritual realm, free from pain, struggle, and death, or they could accept embodiment in the material world, knowing they would face hardship and danger in order to help defeat evil and achieve the final renovation of creation. The Fravashis chose embodiment, chose struggle, chose to risk corruption and death in order to participate in the cosmic victory of good over evil. This choice transforms the entire Zoroastrian understanding of human existence. Life is not exile from paradise or punishment for primordial sin, but voluntary service, conscious dedication to a purpose higher than individual comfort. Human beings are not unfortunate accidents or helpless victims, but willing warriors who have taken up arms in the greatest battle ever fought, accepting all that this service entails for the sake of ultimate triumph. The annual festival of Fravardigan, also known as Muqdad or the Festival of All Souls, celebrates and honors the Fravashis, particularly those of the dead, in an observance that blends solemn commemoration with joyful reunion. This festival takes place during the last 10 days of the Zoroastrian religious year, just before the celebration of Nowruz, the New Year. It represents a liminal period, a time when the boundaries between material and spiritual realms grow thin, when the dead can return to visit their living descendants, when communication between worlds becomes possible in ways not available during the ordinary course of the year. Preparation for Fravardigan begins well before the festival itself, as families thoroughly clean their homes, making them worthy to receive spiritual visitors.
Every corner is swept, every surface washed, all clutter removed, transforming ordinary living spaces into temples fit for the presence of holy guardian spirits. On the first morning of the festival, at sunrise, when light first touches the eastern horizon, Zoroastrian priests in fire temples formally welcome the Fravashis by name, reciting lists of ancestors and inviting them to take up residence in the places prepared for them. For the next 10 days and nights, the Fravashis dwell among the living, invisible but intensely present, observing, blessing, communing with those who honor them. Families prepare special foods that their departed ancestors enjoyed during life, bringing these offerings to fire temples, where priests perform ceremonies of presentation. The food is not believed to be physically consumed by the spirits, but its essence, its spiritual substance, is received and appreciated by the Fravashis, creating bonds of affection and mutual support between the living and the dead. Throughout the festival period, Zoroastrians take time away from ordinary work and concerns to focus on prayer and spiritual practice. The 5 Gathas, the most sacred hymns attributed to Zarathustra himself, are recited with special attention. Prayers are offered for deceased family members by name, recounting their virtues, asking for their blessings, renewing bonds of love that transcend death. The atmosphere is not one of morbid grief or fearful superstition, but of warm reunion, of families expanded to include members who have passed beyond the veil, of community extending across the boundaries of material and spiritual existence. On the 10th and final evening of Fravardigan, as the sun sets and darkness begins to claim the sky, a final ceremony marks the departure of the Fravashis back to their celestial realms. This farewell is bittersweet, tinged with sadness at parting, but also with gratitude for the time shared and anticipation of future reunion. As the last words of prayer fade into silence, as the final offerings are consumed in sacred flames, the Fravashis withdraw, returning to their stations in the spiritual world, leaving their living descendants to continue the struggle against evil, sustained by the blessings they have received and the knowledge that they do not fight alone.
Similarly, the Christian concept of every person having a guardian angel, celebrated in certain traditions with the Feast of the Guardian Angels, shows structural similarities to Fravashi theology. The idea that spiritual beings exist in relationship to individual humans, protecting, guiding, and representing them before divine judgment, mirrors key aspects of how Fravashis function in Zoroastrian thought. While direct influence cannot be definitively proven across millennia of religious evolution, the parallels suggest, at minimum, that human religious consciousness across multiple traditions has repeatedly arrived at similar insights about the relationship between individual identity and spiritual protection. In Islamic tradition, which developed an intimate contact with Persian Zoroastrianism, particularly after the Arab conquest of Iran, the concept of the Qareen, a spiritual double or counterpart attached to each person, shows intriguing parallels to Fravashi theology. While Islamic orthodoxy would not accept the pre-existence of souls or other elements of Zoroastrian cosmology, the basic structure of a spiritual being intimately connected with an individual throughout life and in the afterlife persists in various forms throughout Islamic mystical and popular traditions. Beyond the exalted Amesha and the mysterious Fravashis, the company of Yazatas proper includes a vast array of divine beings, each with specific functions, domains, and characteristics, each worthy of worship and capable of blessing those who honor them. Among all these Yazatas, one stands preeminent, second only to Ahura Mazda himself in dignity and power, the divine being whose worship spread across continents and whose influence can be traced from ancient India to the frontiers of the Roman Empire. This is Mithra, the god of light, of truth, of contracts and covenants, whose very name became synonymous with sacred oaths, and whose cult would eventually create one of the most significant mystery religions of the ancient world. The name Mithra derives from the Indo-Iranian root Mitra, meaning contract, covenant, or friendship. This etymology points to the heart of Mithra's nature and function. He is the divine guardian of agreements, the cosmic force that ensures oaths are kept and promises fulfilled. In ancient societies where written contracts were rare and legal systems rudimentary, where the word of a person had to suffice as guarantee of future conduct, the religious sanction against oath-breaking provided essential social infrastructure. To swear by Mithra was to invoke a power that would punish perjury and betrayal, to call down cosmic consequences upon oneself should one fail to honor one's commitments. Yet Mithra's significance extends far beyond his role as overseer of contracts, important as that function was. He is fundamentally a solar deity, associated with light in all its manifestations, physical and spiritual, literal and metaphorical.
Ancient texts describe him as possessing 10,000 eyes and 10,000 ears, making him omniscient, aware of all that transpires anywhere in creation. Nothing escapes his watchful gaze, no oath sworn in secret, no promise broken in darkness, no truth spoken or falsehood uttered. This cosmic awareness makes him the perfect judge and arbiter, incapable of being deceived or corrupted, able to render verdicts based on complete knowledge of circumstances. The Mir Yasht, the longest hymn in the entire Avestan collection dedicated to any single Yazata, spans over 140 verses, celebrating Mithra's power, wisdom, and glory. This extensive text, composed in the young Avestan language and dating from sometime in the first millennium before the Common Era, presents Mithra in vivid, almost overwhelming detail. He is depicted as a warrior deity of terrible majesty, armed with weapons of silver and gold, riding in a chariot drawn by 4 white horses whose hooves are shod with silver and gold, racing across the sky in eternal pursuit of truth and punishment of falsehood. As god of light, Mithra is intimately associated with the sun, though not identical with the solar disk itself. Rather, he represents the principle of celestial illumination, the divine radiance that dispels darkness, both physical and spiritual. He is called upon at dawn, when the first rays of sunlight break over eastern mountains and drive back the shadows of night. He is praised at midday, when the sun stands at its zenith and light reigns supreme over all the earth. He is invoked at sunset, that liminal hour when light and darkness contend for mastery of the sky, when Mithra's vigilance becomes especially crucial in preventing the forces of evil from gaining advantage during the vulnerable transition from day to night. The connection between light and truth, between illumination and righteousness, runs as a golden thread through all Mithraic theology. Light reveals what darkness conceals, exposes what falsehood tries to hide, makes visible what deception attempts to obscure. Mithra, as Lord of Light, becomes simultaneously Lord of Truth, the divine power that brings hidden things into the open, that strips away pretense and reveals reality in all its stark clarity. This is why oath-breakers and liars face his particular wrath, for they are enemies of the fundamental truth that light reveals and that Mithra embodies. Medieval Persian texts and earlier Avestan sources describe Mithra's terrible punishment of those who violate contracts or speak falsehood. He destroys their houses, scatters their possessions, strikes them down in battle, brings confusion to their counsels, and disaster to their endeavors. These are not arbitrary punishments, but natural consequences, the inevitable result of opposing cosmic order and truth.
In Zoroastrian understanding, the universe has a moral structure, and violation of that structure brings automatic retribution, as surely as violating physical laws brings physical consequences. Mithra serves as agent of this cosmic justice, ensuring that moral law functions as reliably as natural law. Yet Mithra is not merely judge and punisher. He is also protector and benefactor to those who honor truth and keep their oaths. To warriors who fight for righteous causes, he grants victory and courage. To merchants who deal honestly, he provides prosperity and protection on dangerous journeys. To kings who rule justly, he gives stability and success in their endeavors. His blessings are not arbitrary favors, but rewards for alignment with cosmic order, natural outflowings of his association with truth and righteousness. The role of Mithra at the Chinvat Bridge, the bridge of the separator, where all souls must pass after death, reveals his eschatological significance. Along with Sraosha, the divine being of obedience and hearkening, and Rashnu, the Yazata of justice, Mithra sits in judgment over the deceased, weighing their thoughts, words, and deeds in the balance of cosmic justice. This is not arbitrary or capricious judgment, but precise evaluation according to the standard of Asha, determining whether the person lived in alignment with truth or in service to falsehood. Those who pass this judgment proceed to paradise.
welcomed by Vohumana and reunited with their Fravashis. Those who fail fall from the bridge into the darkness below to await final renovation when all will be purified and restored.
The spread of Mithra's worship across the ancient world represents one of the more fascinating chapters in the history of religion, demonstrating how a deity can transcend cultural boundaries and adapt to new contexts while maintaining core attributes and functions. From his origins in the Indo-Iranian period, shared with the Vedic tradition where he appears as Mithra, often paired with Varuna in hymns celebrating cosmic order and moral law, Mithra's cult expanded with Persian imperial power. Under the Achaemenids, as Persian authority stretched from the Indus River to the shores of the Mediterranean, Mithra's worship traveled with soldiers, administrators, and merchants to far-flung corners of the empire. In the Hellenistic period following Alexander's conquests, when Greek and Persian cultures mixed in unprecedented ways, Mithra began his transformation toward the form that would eventually reach Rome. In the kingdoms of Anatolia and Armenia, in trading cities along ancient routes, in military outposts at imperial frontiers, Mithra encountered new peoples and new religious sensibilities. Greek mystery religion traditions, with their emphasis on secret initiation, personal salvation, and cosmic symbolism, influenced how Mithra was understood and worshipped. Elements of astrology, increasingly sophisticated during this period, became woven into Mithraic mythology and ritual. By the time Mithra's worship reached the Roman world in the early centuries of the Common Era, it had evolved into a distinct mystery religion that, while preserving core Persian elements, had developed its own unique character and mythology. Roman Mithraism, as scholars term this development to distinguish it from earlier Persian Mithra worship, appealed particularly to soldiers, with its emphasis on loyalty, brotherhood, courage, and the struggle between light and darkness. Mithraic temples, called Mithraea, were established throughout the Roman Empire, from Britain to Syria, from the Rhine frontier to North Africa, creating an international network of initiates bound by shared mysteries and common devotion to the Lord of Light. Yet even as Mithra's worship spread and transformed in the wider Mediterranean world, his original role within Zoroastrian tradition remained vital and central. For Zoroastrians in the Persian heartland, Mithra never ceased to be the preeminent Yazata, the divine being most frequently invoked after Ahura Mazda himself, the celestial power upon whom one called when swearing oaths, seeking protection, or pursuing justice. the long reign of Mithra as second in the divine hierarchy, his enduring popularity across millennia and cultural transformations testifies to the power of the concepts he embodies and the deep human need for divine sanction of truthfulness and covenant keeping. Where Mithra represents masculine solar power, truth, and covenants, another great Yazata embodies feminine celestial might, waters, fertility, and healing.
Aredvi Sura Anahita, whose name combines meanings of strong, immaculate, and the proper name Anahita, stands as one of the most beloved and powerful divine beings in the Zoroastrian pantheon. Though later Zoroastrian tradition emphasized the monotheistic aspects of the faith, attempting to subordinate all divine beings to Ahura Mazda, there is evidence that Anahita's worship in pre-Zoroastrian times may have accorded her status approaching that of a supreme goddess, equal in some contexts to the great male deities. The Aban Yasht, the fifth hymn among the Yashts and the third longest in the entire collection, celebrates Anahita and language of surpassing beauty and evocative power. This ancient poem, which, like all the Yashts, preserves material from various historical periods woven together into a complex whole, presents Anahita primarily as a great celestial river goddess, flowing from the peak of Mount Hara, the cosmic mountain at the center of the world, down through the starry spheres to water the earth. Her waters are described as equal in volume to all the earthly waters combined, a vast cosmic ocean flowing through the heavens, pure and life-giving, containing the seeds of all fertility and the power of all healing. Anahita is depicted in the Yasht as a beautiful maiden, clothed in garments of gold, adorned with jewels that catch and reflect light like water sparkling in sunlight, riding in a chariot drawn by 4 white horses representing wind, rain, cloud, and sleet, all aspects of the atmospheric water cycle so crucial to agricultural civilization. Her beauty is not merely aesthetic, but reflects her essential nature as source of fertility and abundance. Just as flowers attract bees with lovely colors and sweet scents, Anahita draws worshippers through her radiant beauty, her benevolent power manifesting in forms pleasing to human perception. As goddess of waters, Anahita presides over all the flowing streams, rivers, springs, and wells that bring life to dry lands. In the arid regions of ancient Persia, where rainfall could be sparse and unpredictable, where the difference between a good harvest and famine often depended on adequate water supply, the divine power that controlled water held life and death in her hands. To honor Anahita was to seek her favor for one's fields and flocks, to pray for her waters to flow abundantly, to ask her blessing on wells dug and irrigation channels constructed. Farmers invoked her name when planting crops. Shepherds called upon her when leading flocks to water. Families blessed wells and springs in her name, recognizing that all fresh water ultimately derived from her cosmic river. But Anahita's dominion extends beyond physical water to encompass all forms of fertility and life-giving power. She is invoked by women seeking to conceive children, by those hoping for safe childbirth, by parents praying for healthy offspring.
The connection between water and fertility runs deep in human consciousness and ancient religious symbolism. Water makes seeds germinate and plants grow. Water in the womb nourishes developing life. Water cleanses impurity and restores wholeness. All these associations cluster around Anahita, making her the great mother goddess, despite later theological attempts to subordinate her to masculine supreme deities. The purifying properties of water receive special emphasis in Anahita's cult and theology. Water washes away physical dirt and spiritual pollution alike, restoring ritual purity and moral cleanliness. Those who have been contaminated through contact with death or other sources of impurity undergo washing rituals invoking Anahita's purifying power. Sacred springs associated with Anahita are sought out for their healing properties, their ability to cure diseases and restore health.
The connection between purity and health, between cleanliness and wholeness, between washing and healing, all find expression in devotion to Anahita. Ancient sources, including accounts by Greek and Roman writers describing Persian religion, mention temples dedicated to Anahita throughout the ancient Near East, from Armenia to Mesopotamia, from Cappadocia to Bactria. Some accounts suggest that certain of these temples may have employed priestesses, women specially trained to serve the goddess through ritual and prayer, though the historical evidence for this practice remains a matter of scholarly discussion. If such female priesthoods existed, this would represent an unusual feature in ancient Near Eastern religion, where priestly functions were typically monopolized by men, and would suggest that the goddess retained significant independence and authority, maintaining traditions that may have predated Zoroaster's reforms and persisted alongside the more patriarchal structures of later Zoroastrianism. The identification of Anahita with the planet Venus in later tradition adds another dimension to her mythology and worship. Venus as morning star heralds the dawn, appearing in the eastern sky just before sunrise, serving as messenger of coming light. Venus as evening star graces the western sky at sunset, last celestial body visible before night's full darkness. This dual role, bridging day and night, light and darkness, connects Anahita to liminal times and transitional states, to the boundaries between opposing forces that characterize so much of Zoroastrian cosmology. The syncretic identification of Anahita with other ancient goddesses of waters and fertility demonstrates her widespread appeal and the universal human recognition of divine feminine power in nature. Greek writers compared her to Aphrodite and Artemis. Semitic peoples saw parallels with Ishtar and Astarte. Armenian tradition developed its own distinctive understanding of Anahita while acknowledging Persian origins.
These cross-cultural identifications were not mere intellectual exercises, but practical expressions of religious devotion, as worshippers recognized in local goddesses the same cosmic feminine power they called Anahita. For modern Zoroastrians, Anahita remains an important focus of devotion, particularly in diaspora communities seeking to maintain traditional practices in new environments. Her association with water takes on renewed significance in an age increasingly aware of water scarcity and environmental degradation. Prayers to Anahita acquire ecological overtones, becoming not merely requests for personal blessings, but expressions of concern for the health of rivers, lakes, and oceans, for the proper stewarding of precious water resources, for the maintenance of natural systems upon which all life depends. From the cosmic heights where Anahita's celestial river flows, we descend to observe another great Yazata, whose domain encompasses the crucial relationship between heaven and earth, between celestial phenomena and earthly fertility, between the regular movements of stars and the unpredictable gift of rain. Tishtrya, whose name is associated with the brilliant star Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, embodies in his mythology the ancient Zoroastrian understanding of how cosmic order manifests in seasonal patterns and agricultural cycles. The Tir Yast, the eighth hymn among the collection of Yasts, recounts the dramatic myth of Tishtrya's annual battle with Apollosia, the demon of drought. This conflict represents no mere abstract theological concept, but addresses the vital question that preoccupied every agricultural society in regions where rainfall patterns could mean the difference between prosperity and disaster. Why does rain sometimes come abundantly and sometimes fail? Why do some years bring plenty while others bring famine? The myth of Tishtrya and Apollosia provides both explanation and solution, cosmic drama, and practical ritual response. According to the myth, Tishtrya manifests in 3 successive forms during his struggle with the drought demon. First, he appears as a beautiful 15-year-old youth, radiant and pure, symbolizing the vigor and potential of young adulthood, the promise of strength not yet fully realized. In this form, he approaches the cosmic sea, Vurakasha, from which all earthly waters ultimately derive. But Apolosha, appearing as a dark and ugly demon, contests his approach, preventing him from gathering the waters that would become rain for the parched earth. Recognizing that his youthful form lacks sufficient power to overcome the demon, Tishtrya transforms into a magnificent white bull, embodying the strength and fertility of powerful male animals so important to pastoral societies. The bull represents not only physical might, but generative power, the ability to father offspring and continue lineages.
Yet even in this formidable shape, Tishtrya finds Apolosha equal in strength, the battle remaining locked in stalemate, neither side able to gain decisive advantage. Finally, Tishtrya assumes his most powerful form, that of a splendid white horse, swift as wind, strong as the storm, beautiful as lightning flashing across dark skies. Horses in ancient Indo-Iranian culture carried associations of solar power, divine majesty, and victorious warfare. The sacred horse sacrifice, performed in Vedic tradition and known also in Iranian contexts, expressed the connection between equine animals and cosmic sovereignty. As white horse, Tishtrya achieves his full power, finally defeating Apolosha and gaining access to the cosmic sea. Having triumphed over the drought demon, Tishtrya gathers up the waters of Vodukasha, lifting them into the atmosphere where they become clouds. The wind deity Vayu assists in this work, driving the clouds across the sky to where they are needed. Anahita provides her blessing, ensuring the waters remain pure and life-giving. Together, these divine forces collaborate to produce rain, that essential gift from heaven to earth, without which no crops grow, no grass springs up for grazing animals, no life can flourish in its proper seasons. The myth serves multiple functions within Zoroastrian religious life and agricultural practice. It explains the mechanism of rainfall in cosmic terms, attributing seasonal patterns to the outcome of divine struggle, rather than to impersonal natural law. It provides a ritual framework for human participation in ensuring rainfall, as prayers and offerings to Tishtrya strengthen him in his annual battle, helping tip the balance in favor of beneficial rain over destructive drought. It embodies the fundamental Zoroastrian principle that good and evil remain locked in cosmic struggle, with outcomes not predetermined but dependent on effort and intervention. For farmers watching anxiously for signs of rain, scanning cloud formations, and worrying about adequate moisture for their fields, Tishtrya represents divine attention to their concerns. He is not a distant, uncaring cosmic force, but an ally in the struggle for survival and prosperity. A divine being who fights on behalf of mortal needs, who contests with demons to secure the blessings necessary for life. The brilliant rising of Sirius in the pre-dawn sky serves as visible sign of Tishtrya's presence and power, reminder that the battle continues, that the cosmic forces supporting life remain vigilant and active. Alongside Tishtrya in the bringing of rain and the maintenance of atmospheric water cycles stands Vayu, the deity of wind, whose nature proves more complex and ambiguous than most Yazatas. Wind, in Zoroastrian thought, possesses dual character, capable of supporting life or destroying it, of bringing beneficial rain-bearing breezes or devastating storms.
This duality makes Vayu unique among the Yazatas, as he alone seems to participate in both good and evil, to serve both Ahura Mazda and, in his negative aspect, to have some relationship with destructive forces. The ambiguity surrounding Vayu reflects the ancient understanding that wind itself possesses no inherent moral character, that it serves whichever power directs it, that its effects depend entirely on how and when and where it blows. A gentle breeze on a hot day brings relief and comfort. A devastating hurricane destroys homes and lives. The same fundamental force, atmospheric movement, manifests in forms ranging from life-sustaining to catastrophically destructive. Zoroastrian theology addresses this ambiguity by distinguishing between Vayu's good and evil aspects, his beneficial and harmful manifestations,
while acknowledging that the underlying reality remains unified, neither fully good nor completely evil in nature. Another Yazata intimately connected with fertility, healing, and ritual practice is Haoma, who represents both a divine being and the sacred plant used in Zoroastrian ceremonies. The Haoma plant, identified by scholars with various candidates, though never conclusively determined with certainty, possessed properties that made it suitable for ritual use, perhaps mild intoxicating or stimulating effects that facilitated religious experience and mystical states of consciousness. When properly prepared, according to traditional methods, pressed and mixed with other substances, Haoma juice served as essential offering in major Zoroastrian liturgies. The divine Haoma, the Yazata for whom the plant is named or who manifests through the plant, embodies principles of vigor, vitality, health, and triumph over death. Ancient texts describe Haoma as granting strength to warriors, healing to the sick, fertility to the barren, and immortality to the righteous. The connection between the plant and these divine gifts flows from Zoroastrian sacramental understanding, the principle that material substances can serve as vehicles for spiritual power, that proper ritual use of natural products creates bridges between earthly and celestial realms. The parallel between Zoroastrian Haoma and Vedic Soma, both divine beings and ritual plants, points again to shared Indo-Iranian heritage, to a time when ancestral peoples used the same or similar plants in their worship and told similar stories about divine vitality and strength flowing from these sacred substances. The Haoma ceremony in Zoroastrianism, particularly the Yasna liturgy, in which Haoma features prominently, preserves elements of ancient Indo-Iranian ritual that reach back thousands of years before Zarathustra, connecting modern practitioners with their most distant religious ancestors.
In the ritual preparation of Haoma, priests follow elaborate procedures handed down through countless generations, treating the plant with reverence due a divine being, addressing it with prayers and formulas while extracting its juice. The Haoma is never simply crushed or processed mechanically, but handled with ritual care that acknowledges its secret nature. The extracted juice is offered to Ahura Mazda and the other divine beings, then consumed by the priests, creating communion between worshippers and the divine realm through the medium of this sacred substance. The association of Haoma with healing and health makes this Yazata especially important to those suffering from disease or seeking protection from illness. Prayers to Haoma request relief from pain, restoration of strength, victory over the demons of sickness and decay. The understanding that divine power can manifest through natural substances, that plants growing from the earth under Ameritat's care can serve as vehicles for celestial blessings, creates a distinctly Zoroastrian form of sacramental theology that bridges the gap between matter and spirit, between earth and heaven, between mortal limitation and divine wholeness. Another water deity of great importance, though perhaps less well known than Anahita, is Apamnapat, whose name means son of the waters. This paradoxical Yazata represents fire dwelling within water, the seemingly impossible combination of opposing elements unified in single divine being. The paradox points to deeper truths about the nature of divine power and the interpenetration of cosmic forces. Water and fire, seemingly absolute opposites, actually cooperate in natural processes and cosmic cycles. Lightning, fire from the sky, emerges from water-laden storm clouds. Volcanic activity at the ocean floor combines earth, fire, and water in dramatic manifestation. Even in living bodies, the heat of life dwells within fluids and moist tissues. Apamnapat particularly associates with sacred springs, those places where water emerges from deep within earth, rising from hidden sources to bubble forth in perpetual flow. Such springs seemed to ancient observers to possess their own mysterious energy, water flowing without apparent source, sometimes hot when surrounding waters were cold,
sometimes possessing unusual mineral content or healing properties. The fire and water paradox that Apamnaphat embodies finds literal expression in hot springs and geothermal waters, where genuine heat emerges from aquatic sources, uniting the opposing elements in observable natural phenomena. The prayers and hymns addressing Apamnaphat invoke his power to purify, to energize, to bring divine fire into earthly waters, transforming them from mere natural substance into sacred medium capable of transmitting spiritual power.
When Zoroastrians perform ritual ablutions, washing themselves according to purity laws, they call upon Apamnaphat, among other water deities, requesting that the cleansing power of divine fire combine with the washing power of water to remove all spiritual contamination and restore ritual purity. Beyond the gentle Yazatas of water and fertility, beyond even the complex figure of Vayu with his dual nature, stand the warrior deities, the divine beings who embody martial valor, grant victory in battle, and protect the righteous from the assaults of demons and enemies. Chief among these fierce protectors is Vrethridna, whose very name means victory or overcoming resistance, the smashing of obstacles, and the triumph over opposition. Vrethridna represents the divine warrior spirit in its purest and most potent form, the cosmic force that ensures evil cannot ultimately prevail, that darkness must yield before light, that the forces of Ahura Mazda will prove superior to all opposition. The Bahram Yasht, the 14th hymn among the Yashts, celebrates Vrethridna in vivid and sometimes almost overwhelming detail, describing his 10 incarnations or manifestations, each representing a different aspect of victorious power and martial might. These 10 forms reveal the complexity of victory, the many ways divine power manifests to overcome different types of obstacles and opposition. Understanding Vrethridna requires contemplating each manifestation in turn, recognizing how together they constitute a complete theology of divine triumph. First, Vrethridna appears as a strong wind, swift and irresistible, sweeping away all opposition as a gale scatters leaves or a hurricane tears down buildings. Wind represents invisible but undeniable power, force that cannot be grasped or fought directly, but only endured or avoided. Victory comes sometimes through sheer overwhelming force, through power too great to be resisted, no matter how determined the resistance. Second, he manifests as a beautiful bull with golden horns, embodying the strength and virility of powerful male animals, the ability to dominate through physical superiority and natural authority. The bull represents not mindless force, but disciplined strength, power under control, might directed toward proper purposes. Victory sometimes comes through demonstration of superior strength, through proving oneself more powerful than one's opponents. Third, Vrethridna becomes a white horse with golden ears, swift as thought, beautiful as the sun, carrying associations of nobility and aristocratic warrior culture. The horse grants mobility, speed, the ability to strike quickly and withdraw before enemies can respond. Victory often depends on rapidity of movement, on arriving first and departing before being caught, on using speed to compensate for lesser numbers or strength. Fourth, he appears as a burden-bearing camel, able to cross vast deserts, to endure harsh conditions, to carry heavy loads across difficult terrain.
The camel represents endurance, the ability to outlast opposition through superior stamina and tolerance for hardship. Victory sometimes comes to those who simply refuse to quit, who continue when others give up, who maintain pressure through persistence rather than overwhelming force. Fifth, Vrethridna manifests as a fierce boar with sharp tusks, aggressive and fearless, willing to attack animals much larger than itself, defending its territory with furious courage. The boar represents ferocity, the will to fight regardless of odds, the spirit that makes retreat impossible and surrender unthinkable. Victory requires courage, the willingness to engage in combat even when outcomes remain uncertain. Sixth, he becomes a beautiful youth in the prime of adolescence, representing the vigor of young manhood, the strength that has not yet been diminished by age,
the potential power just coming into its full expression. The youth embodies hope, future possibility, the promise of strength, not yet fully realized, but already present in potential. Victory belongs to the young, to those not yet worn down by life's struggles, still possessing the energy and optimism necessary for achievement. Seventh, Varathragna appears as a raven, the most intelligent of birds, able to imitate speech, to use tools, to solve problems through cunning rather than strength. The raven represents wit, cleverness, the ability to triumph through intelligence and strategy rather than mere physical might. Victory often comes to those who think clearly, who outmaneuver rather than overpower their opponents, who use brains rather than brawn. Eighth, he manifests as a wild ram with sharp horns, sure-footed in mountains, able to fight rivals and defend flocks. The ram represents territorial authority, the will to defend what is rightfully one's own, the courage to face challenges from those who would usurp proper position. Victory includes successful defense, maintaining what one has against those who would take it away. Ninth, Varathragna becomes a fighting buck with pointed antlers, swift and alert, able to sense danger and flee or fight as circumstances require. The buck represents awareness, the ability to perceive threats before they become overwhelming, the judgment to know when to stand and when to withdraw. Victory requires wisdom, knowing when to engage and when to avoid battle. 10th, and most significantly, he appears as a warrior armed for battle, clothed in armor, wielding weapons, representing human martial valor elevated to divine status. The warrior embodies courage, skill, discipline, all the virtues prized in military culture, sanctified and made cosmic through association with divine victory. This final manifestation reminds worshippers that Varathragna's power is available to human warriors who fight for righteous causes, that divine victory can manifest through mortal arms when those arms serve truth and justice.
Together, these 10 manifestations constitute a complete picture of victorious power, encompassing physical strength and moral courage, individual prowess and tactical wisdom, overwhelming force and patient endurance, aggressive attack and skillful defense. Warriors preparing for battle invoke Varathragna's name, requesting his power to flow through them, granting them the strength of the bull, the speed of the horse, the courage of the boar, the wisdom of the raven, and all the other attributes needed for triumph over enemies. But Varathragna's blessings extend beyond literal military combat to include all forms of struggle and opposition. Those facing difficult challenges, confronting obstacles to achievement, striving against adversity in any form, can call upon this Yazata for strength and ultimate victory. The cosmic battle between good and evil, in which all creation participates, requires warrior virtues from all participants, not only from professional soldiers. Every person who resists evil, who stands firm for truth, who refuses to surrender to forces of chaos and destruction, becomes a warrior in the service of Ahura Mazda, entitled to invoke Varathragna's aid. Working alongside Varathragna in the protection of cosmic order and the punishment of evil stands Sraosha, whose name derives from the root meaning to hear or to hearken, suggesting obedience, attention, and proper response to divine commands. Sraosha represents the principle of listening to and obeying the voice of righteousness, of hearkening to divine instruction, rather than following selfish desire or demonic temptation. In a cosmology where the battle between good and evil includes warfare in spiritual and mental realms as well as physical combat, Sraosha's particular function becomes essential to overall victory. Sraosha's primary role focuses on protecting the souls of the recently deceased during the dangerous 3-day period immediately following death, when the soul has left the body but has not yet crossed the Chinvat bridge to its final destination.
During these 3 days and nights, the soul remains vulnerable to assault by demons, who seek to drag it down to darkness rather than allowing it to proceed to judgment and potential paradise. Sraosha stands guard over the soul, wielding weapons that drive back demonic attackers, ensuring that the deceased has opportunity to face judgment by Mithra, Rashnu, and himself without having been corrupted or destroyed by forces of evil. This protective function makes Sraosha especially important in Zoroastrian funerary practices and rituals for the dead. Prayers to Sraosha are recited over the corpse and during the 3 days following death, calling upon him by name, describing his weapons and power, requesting his intervention on behalf of the deceased.
These prayers do not seek to manipulate or bribe the divine guardian, but rather to invoke his presence, to call his attention to the vulnerable soul, to request the protection he willingly provides to all who have lived righteously. Sraosha's vigilance extends beyond the immediate post-death period to encompass nightly warfare against demons who roam the earth during hours of darkness. According to Zoroastrian texts, demons gain particular strength when the sun sets and visible light withdraws from the world, when shadows grow long and darkness claims dominion over the landscape. During these dangerous hours, Sraosha patrols the boundaries between light and dark, wielding his weapons against demonic incursions, protecting the sleeping righteous from spiritual assault, maintaining cosmic order while most of creation rests. This makes Sraosha particularly important for evening prayers and nighttime devotions. Zoroastrians reciting prayers before sleep invoke Sraosha's protection, requesting his watchfulness through the vulnerable hours of night, when human consciousness withdraws and demonic forces grow bold. The knowledge that a powerful divine warrior remains on guard even while mortals sleep provides comfort and security, transforming night from a time of fear into a period of protected rest under divine care. The continued veneration of Sraosha, even after the Islamic conquest of Persia, when most Zoroastrian practices faced severe pressure and many divine beings disappeared from popular consciousness, testifies to his enduring significance. In Islamic Persian tradition, Sraosha becomes Surush, an angel who brings divine inspiration and revelation, who guards the faithful and fights against evil spirits. This Islamic appropriation and transformation of a Zoroastrian Yazata demonstrates both the appeal of Sraosha's protective functions and the flexibility of religious concepts across cultural and theological boundaries. At the Chinvat Bridge, Sraosha joins Mithra and Rashnu in the tribunal that judges souls of the dead, where Mithra brings illuminating truth and Rashnu provides exact justice. Sraosha contributes the element of obedience and right hearing, determining whether the deceased listened to and followed divine guidance during life. Together, these 3 Yazatas constitute a complete system of judgment, evaluating truth, justice, and obedience, the fundamental requirements for righteous living in Zoroastrian understanding. Rashnu himself deserves careful attention as the Yazata of justice in its purest form, the divine scales that weigh deeds without favor or prejudice, determining objective truth about moral worth regardless of social status, wealth, or power. The name Rashnu relates to words suggesting straight, direct, true, pointing to the principle of unflinching honesty in evaluation. Rashnu does not judge according to human conventions or relativistic standards, but according to the absolute measure of Asha, cosmic truth and righteousness.
The image of Rashnu's scales appears frequently in Zoroastrian art and literature, depicting the moment of judgment when a person's life is literally weighed in the balance. On one side of the scales are placed all good thoughts, words, and deeds accumulated during earthly existence. On the other side go all evil thoughts, words, and deeds, all moments of falsehood, cruelty, or alignment with Druj. The scales tip according to which side outweighs the other, determining whether the soul proceeds to paradise or falls into darkness. This is not arbitrary judgment, but mechanical determination, the inevitable consequence of choices made during life. The emphasis on thoughts, as well as words and deeds, in Zoroastrian ethical teaching receives concrete expression in Rashnu's weighing. Evil contemplated but not acted upon still counts against the person. Good intended but not accomplished still accrues to their benefit. The internal life of consciousness matters as much as external behavior, for ultimately both spring from the same source, the fundamental orientation of the soul toward truth or falsehood, good or evil. Rashnu's scales measure total moral weight, not merely visible actions, but the hidden currents of intention and desire that motivate those actions. The justice Rashnu embodies is neither arbitrary nor subject to appeal or modification. His judgment represents cosmic fact, determination of objective moral truth about a person's life. There can be no deception, no manipulation, no special pleading before Rashnu's scales. The wealthy cannot buy favorable judgment. The powerful cannot intimidate or threaten. The eloquent cannot argue their way to paradise. Only the truth of one's life matters, only the real balance between good and evil, accumulated through thought, word, and deed during mortal existence. This vision of absolute, incorruptible justice provides both comfort and challenge to the faithful. Comfort, because it guarantees that ultimately right will be vindicated and wrong punished, that the apparent injustices of earthly life will be corrected in divine judgment, that those who suffer unjustly will receive recompense, while those who prosper through evil will face retribution. Challenge, because it removes all excuses and evasions, all possibilities for self-deception about one's true moral state. One cannot claim to be righteous while acting wickedly, cannot profess devotion while harboring evil thoughts, cannot pretend alignment with truth while serving falsehood in practice. Alongside these great warrior and judicial Yazatas, Atar occupies a unique position as the divine being most intimately connected with Zoroastrian worship and ritual practice. Atar is fire itself made divine, the sacred flames that burn in every Zoroastrian temple, the hearth fires maintained in homes, the ritual fires kindled for ceremonies. Yet Atar is more than physical combustion, more than merely useful energy source or pleasant source of warmth and light.
Atar is the visible, tangible presence of divine truth, the material manifestation of Asha, the cosmic principle of order and righteousness. Ancient texts call Atar the son of Ahura Mazda, identifying him with the supreme deity more closely than most other Yazatas, suggesting that fire holds special status among divine emanations. This filial relationship between Creator God and sacred fire points to fire's role as primary manifestation of divine presence in material realm. When one sits before the sacred fire in a Zoroastrian temple, when one tends the household hearth with proper reverence, when one kindles flames for ritual purposes, one does not merely perform practical actions, but engages with divine reality directly present in physical form. The purity of fire becomes a central theme in Zoroastrian theology and ritual practice. Fire cannot be polluted in the same way other elements can be defiled. Water can become contaminated with impurities. Earth can be polluted by corpses or waste. Air can carry disease and corruption. But fire consumes impurity, reduces it to ash, purifies whatever it touches through its burning. This purifying power makes fire essential for rituals of cleansing, for burning away spiritual contamination, for restoring purity that has been compromised through contact with death or other defiling influences. Different grades or levels of sacred fire exist in Zoroastrian tradition, reflecting varying degrees of sanctity and ritual purification. The highest grade, the Atash Baharam, or fire of victory,
requires gathering fires from 16 different sources, representing various professions and social classes, then subjecting these gathered flames to elaborate purification rituals lasting months or even years before the final consecrated fire can be installed in its temple. Only a handful of Atash Baharams exist in the world, each one representing decades of preparation and ritual labor, each one considered a supreme manifestation of Atar's divine presence. Lesser grades of sacred fire, while not requiring such extensive preparation, still receive careful ritual attention and devoted maintenance. Fire temples of various grades exist throughout Zoroastrian communities, each one housing flames that must never be allowed to extinguish, that are fed with special woods and tended by trained priests who understand proper protocols for approaching and maintaining sacred fire. To allow such a fire to go out through negligence would be catastrophic failure of ritual duty, abandonment of divine presence that has been carefully cultivated and maintained through generations.
One must never treat fire carelessly or disrespectfully, failing to honor the divine presence manifest in flame. These rules transform ordinary interaction with fire into religious practice, making every instance of building, tending, or using fire an opportunity for devotion and mindfulness. The solar imagery so prevalent in Zoroastrian thought connects intimately with fire worship, as the sun itself is conceived as the greatest fire, the supreme manifestation of Atar burning in the sky, illuminating and warming all creation. Daily solar movement across the heavens from eastern rising to western setting represents the divine fire's eternal circuit, its ceaseless vigil against darkness, its unfailing provision of light and life to the world. When Zoroastrians pray facing east at dawn, they honor both the rising sun and Atar's celestial manifestation, acknowledging the divine fire that banishes night and begins each new day. Beyond the warrior deities and the sacred fire, a host of Yazatas embody the natural elements and cosmic forces that structure physical reality and make life possible. Zam, the earth goddess, presides over the solid ground beneath feet, the soil from which plants grow, the physical foundation that supports all terrestrial existence. Where Spenta Armaiti represents the principle of devotion associated with earth, Zam is earth itself made divine, the living planet aware and responsive to proper treatment, capable of being blessed or cursed depending on how humanity treats the land. Asman, the sky deity, holds up the celestial vault, maintaining the separation between earthly and heavenly realms, providing the dome against which stars move in their appointed paths and clouds drift in their courses. Ancient cosmology conceived the sky as solid firmament, a crystalline shell or metal dome encasing the world, keeping the waters above separated from the waters below, providing stable structure for the cosmos. Asman, as divine being, personifies this cosmic architecture, ensuring that the sky maintains its proper position and function. Huvarech Shayeta, the radiant sun, travels daily across the sky in a golden chariot drawn by swift horses, bringing light to dispel darkness, warmth to sustain life, visible evidence of divine care and cosmic order. The sun's utterly reliable rising each morning provides perhaps the most fundamental proof of Asha the reality, demonstrating that cosmic law governs celestial movements, that truth and order structure the universe, that chaos has not prevailed despite the destructive spirit's assault on creation. Every sunrise constitutes a small victory of light over darkness, order over chaos, truth over falsehood. Ma, the moon, governs the monthly cycles that regulate so much of natural and human life, from tides in the ocean to women's fertility, from agricultural timing to ritual observances.
Ancient texts describe the moon as containing or protecting the seeds of all life, serving as cosmic repository for the vital essence that would repopulate creation after Engram Mainyu's initial assault. When the primordial bull was struck down and the first man died, their seeds were gathered by the moon, preserved in its light, eventually distributed to produce all beneficial animals and the first human couple. The star Yazatas, divine beings associated with specific constellations and individual stars visible in the night sky, populate the celestial vault with witnesses to human action and allies in the cosmic battle. Each named star serves as both astronomical marker for navigation and timekeeping, and as divine presence watching over particular aspects of creation. Satavesa guards the celestial order, ensuring stars maintain their proper positions and movements. Vanant, associated with the brilliant star Vega, brings its particular blessings to those who honor it. Tishtrya, connected with Canis Minor, supports Tishtrya in his annual battle against drought. Peorianis, linked to the Pleiades, that cluster of stars so important in ancient astronomy and agriculture, marks seasonal changes and guides nocturnal travelers. The star-studded night sky, so much more visible and immediate to ancient peoples than to modern urbanites surrounded by artificial light, spoke directly of divine presence and cosmic order. The utterly reliable rotation of constellations, the precise movements of planets, the seasonal appearance and disappearance of particular stars, all demonstrated that despite appearances of chaos and disorder in human affairs, the cosmos itself remained governed by law, structured by truth, and maintained by divine powers faithful to their appointed tasks. To name the stars as Yazatas, to address them in prayer and honor them in ritual, was to acknowledge that even the most distant celestial bodies participated in the same cosmic drama that gave meaning to human existence. Among the more abstract Yazatas, beings who personify moral and spiritual principles rather than natural elements, Dinah holds unique importance as the personification of religion itself, the divine embodiment of the Zoroastrian faith and the individual conscience. The word Dinah carries multiple layers of meaning, suggesting vision, insight, inner self, religious law, and the sum total of one's spiritual character. Dinah represents both the objective structure of divine law and the subjective internalization of that law within human consciousness. In one of the most powerful images in Zoroastrian eschatology, Dinah appears to souls after death as they approach the Chinvat bridge. The form she takes depends entirely on how the person lived. To those who have lived righteously, who aligned themselves with truth and practiced the religion faithfully, Dinah appears as a beautiful maiden, radiant and sweetly scented, embodying all that is lovely and desirable.
She reveals herself as the personification of the good thoughts, words, and deeds that constituted the person's life, their own religion made visible and tangible, their conscience externalized and beautified. To those who have lived wickedly, who served falsehood and violated religious law, Dinah appears as an ugly, foul-smelling hag, repulsive and terrifying, embodying all that is loathsome and frightening. She reveals herself as the personification of their evil thoughts, words, and deeds, their own irreligion made visible and hideous, their conscience externalized and made horrible. The soul cannot escape or deny this confrontation with its own true nature. The beauty or ugliness of Dinah reflects the objective moral reality of the life lived, the accumulated weight of choices made throughout earthly existence. This vision of conscience made visible, of moral character externalized and personified, carries profound psychological and spiritual insight. What we are becomes visible to us at the moment when self-deception is no longer possible, when the masks we wear for others and ourselves fall away, when reality stands naked and undeniable. The beautiful or ugly Dinah represents not external judgment imposed by an arbitrary deity, but simply the truth of what we have made ourselves through our choices, the inevitable consequence of alignment with truth or falsehood during mortal life. Ashi Vanguhi, the Yazata of blessing, reward, and good fortune, embodies the principle that proper conduct brings appropriate recompense, that alignment with cosmic order generates natural benefits, that serving truth produces prosperity and success. The name Ashi means recompense or reward, while Vanguhi means good or beneficial, together suggesting the good rewards that come to those who live righteously. Ashi Vanguhi is frequently depicted as a beautiful woman bearing gifts, approaching those who have earned her favor through ethical conduct and devoted worship. Yet the rewards Ashi brings are not bribes for good behavior or arbitrary gifts disconnected from moral worth. Rather, they represent the natural outgrowth of righteous living, the inevitable results of alignment with Asha. In Zoroastrian understanding, the universe has moral structure as real and reliable as its physical structure. Just as dropping an object causes it to fall according to gravity's law, living righteously causes blessings to flow according to moral law. Ashi Vanguhi personifies this moral law, serving as its agent and manifestation, ensuring that cosmic justice functions properly and good actions receive their due reward. For farmers hoping for good harvests, merchants seeking profitable ventures, families desiring prosperity and health, Ashi Vanguhi becomes the focus of prayers and devotion. But these prayers do not seek to manipulate or bribe the goddess into granting favors regardless of merit.
Rather, they express hope that one's conduct has been sufficiently righteous to merit her blessings, that one's alignment with truth has been close enough to generate the natural rewards that flow from moral order. The prayer to Ashi becomes simultaneously petition for blessing and examination of conscience, request for favor, and acknowledgement of the moral conditions that make such favor appropriate. Arshtad, sometimes called Ashtad, personifies justice and rectitude more abstractly than Rashnu, representing the principle of moral uprightness and fair dealing that should characterize all human interactions. Where Rashnu focuses on eschatological judgment of souls after death, Arshtad embodies the justice that should prevail in earthly affairs, in courts of law, in business transactions, in social relationships. To honor Arshtad means to commit oneself to fairness, to refuse participation in corruption or favoritism, to uphold truth even when doing so proves costly or inconvenient. The connection between abstract moral principles and personified divine beings reflects the Zoroastrian conviction that virtues are not merely human inventions or social conventions, but real forces woven into the fabric of reality itself. Justice is not something we create, but something we recognize and align ourselves with. Rectitude is not arbitrary rule, but proper function, the way human society works best because it reflects cosmic truth. When we practice justice and rectitude, we participate in divine reality, make ourselves channels for Yazata power, become instruments through which cosmic order manifests in human affairs. Chisti, the Yazata of religious wisdom and instruction, represents the principle that true religion requires understanding, that faith without knowledge remains incomplete, that spiritual development depends on proper teaching and learning. The name Chisti connects to words suggesting instruction, discernment, and religious knowledge. Chisti is often invoked alongside Dhyana, the two forming a pair that encompasses both the objective structure of religion and the subjective process of learning and internalizing religious truth. For students of the sacred texts, for priests memorizing liturgies and mastering ritual procedures, for any who seek deeper understanding of religious mysteries, Chisti serves as patron and helper. But Chisti's concern extends beyond merely intellectual or academic knowledge to include wisdom in the deeper sense, the practical understanding that guides proper conduct, the discernment that distinguishes truth from falsehood in complex situations, the spiritual insight that perceives divine presence in ordinary life. To grow in Chisti means to become not merely more knowledgeable about religion, but more profoundly religious, more deeply aligned with truth, more completely devoted to Asha. Ariamon, whose name connects to words suggesting healing, friendship, and brotherhood, embodies the social bonds that unite communities in pursuit of common good. Ariamon heals diseases of body and divisions of society, bringing remedy to sickness and reconciliation to conflict. The Ariamon Ishyo, a prayer formula considered among the most powerful in Zoroastrian liturgy, invokes Ariamon's assistance in healing and reconciliation, asking him to bring help to those who need it and to strengthen the bonds of religious community. In a religion that emphasizes individual moral responsibility and the personal cosmic struggle between good and evil within each soul, Ariamon reminds worshippers that no one fights alone, that community and fellowship form essential supports for spiritual warfare, that the bonds of friendship and brotherhood are themselves divine gifts deserving of honor and cultivation. The healing Ariamon provides includes not only physical cure of disease, but restoration of broken relationships, mending of social fabric torn by conflict, renewal of trust and cooperation damaged by betrayal or misunderstanding. Wedding ceremonies in Zoroastrian tradition invoke Ariamon's blessing on the new household being established, requesting his protection for the couple and their future children, asking him to maintain bonds of love and mutual support throughout their lives together. This association with marriage reflects Ariamon's broader concern for all forms of beneficial relationship, all the connections that bind individuals into families and families into communities, creating the social structures that enable civilization to flourish and provide context for spiritual development. Mantra spenta, the holy word, or sacred prayer, represents the power of properly spoken liturgical formulas, the divine force that flows through sacred language when correctly pronounced by qualified priests in appropriate contexts. Words in Zoroastrian understanding are not merely conventional sounds conveying information, but powerful forces capable of affecting reality, of invoking divine presence, of creating bridges between material and spiritual realms. The correct recitation of prayers, using exact words in proper sequence with appropriate reverence, generates effects far beyond mere communication of meaning. This understanding of sacred language's power explains the immense importance placed on precise transmission of liturgical texts through generations of priests, the careful training and proper pronunciation and intonation, the preservation of ancient Avestan language in worship even when it has ceased to be spoken in ordinary life. The words themselves, independent of their semantic meaning, carry power when spoken correctly. The sounds resonate with cosmic frequencies, align human consciousness with divine reality, open channels through which spiritual force can flow from celestial to earthly realms. Mantra spenta, as personified divine being, embodies this understanding, serving as guarantor of sacred language's effectiveness, ensuring that properly performed liturgy achieves its intended purposes. Prayers to Mantra spenta request that one's own recitations and devotions be acceptable, that the words spoken will reach their divine recipients and generate appropriate responses, that the gap between human speech and divine hearing will be bridged through this Yazatas mediation. The vast array of Yazatas, from the greatest, like Mithra and Anahita, to the more obscure figures known only from scattered references in ancient texts, together constitute a comprehensive theology of divine presence throughout all levels of existence. No aspect of natural world, no dimension of human experience, no element of cosmic structure lacks its corresponding Yazata, its divine guardian and representative. This thoroughgoing sacralization of reality,
This insistence that everything partakes of divine nature and connects to transcendent purpose creates a worldview in which the sacred and profane cannot be neatly separated, where every moment contains potential for divine encounter and every action carries cosmic significance. The Avesta, the sacred scriptures that preserve Zoroastrian wisdom and liturgy, provides the primary textual foundation for understanding the Yazatas. This collection of writings, composed over many centuries in various dialects of the ancient Avestan language, contains material ranging from the most archaic hymns, possibly contemporary with Zarathustra himself, to much later compositions reflecting evolved theological understanding and ritual practice. The Avesta, as it survives today, represents only a fraction of what once existed, much having been lost during Alexander's conquest of Persia, during subsequent periods of upheaval, and through the gradual decline of Zoroastrianism after the Islamic conquest of Iran. The oldest portion of the Avesta, the Gathas, consists of 17 hymns attributed to Zarathustra himself, composed in an archaic dialect and structured in complex metrical patterns. These hymns, cryptic and profound, present the core theological vision of ethical monotheism, cosmic dualism, and individual moral responsibility that defines Zoroastrian thought. The Gathas mention Yazatas only briefly and somewhat ambiguously, speaking of beings worthy of worship without providing the detailed mythological and ritual information found in later texts. This suggests that the developed Yazata theology represents an evolution of earlier, simpler concepts, possibly incorporating pre-Zoroastrian divine figures into the reformed religious system that Zarathustra established. The Yasna Haptangaiti, the Worship in 7 chapters, follows the Gathas in the structure of the Avesta and shares their archaic language and austere theology. This section of liturgy addresses Ahura Mazda and the Amesha Spentas primarily, with fewer references to the broader company of Yazatas. The focus on the supreme deity and his closest emanations reflects the theological priorities of earliest Zoroastrianism, the emphasis on monotheistic core even while recognizing lesser divine beings. The Yashts, the collection of 21 hymns dedicated to individual Yazatas, represent the richest source of information about these divine beings, preserving myths, descriptions, and liturgical formulas that bring the Yazatas to vivid life. Each Yasht follows a similar structure, beginning with invocation of the deity by name and epithet, proceeding through narratives of the Yazatas' powers and deeds, listing those who have honored the deity and received blessings, and concluding with prayers requesting similar favors for current worshippers. The literary quality of these hymns varies considerably, some displaying genuine poetic power and others reading more as catalogues of divine attributes and functions, but collectively, they provide invaluable glimpses into ancient Iranian religious consciousness. The longest Yashts, dedicated to Mithra, Anahita, and the Fravishis, reflect the particular importance of these figures in Zoroastrian devotion. The Mede Yasht's extensive celebration of Mithra's might and vigilance demonstrates his central role as cosmic overseer and judge. The Aben Yasht's beautiful descriptions of Anahita's flowing waters and generous blessings reveal the profound significance of the water goddess for agricultural society. The Fravardin Yasht's detailed account of the Fravishis' protective power and warrior nature shows how guardian spirits provided comfort and support to the faithful facing life's dangers and death's mysteries. The correlation between Yashts and days of the month in the Zoroastrian calendar creates a systematic framework for honoring the Yazatas throughout the monthly cycle. Each day bears the name of a particular Yazata and is dedicated to that divine being's worship. On such days, the relevant Yasht is recited in temples, special prayers are offered to that Yazata, and devotees may undertake particular observances or make specific offerings. This calendarical structure ensures that no Yazata is neglected, that regular attention is paid to all the divine beings who maintain cosmic order and assist humanity. The calendar's organization reflects theological priorities and cosmological understanding. The 1st, 8th, 15th, and 23rd days all bear Ahura Mazda's name, emphasizing the supreme deity's preeminence. These days mark the beginning of 4 7-day periods within the month, creating a rhythm that honors the creator deity at regular intervals throughout the monthly cycle.
The days immediately following each Ahura Mazda day are dedicated to the Amesha immortals in sequence, positioning the holy immortals in subordinate but clearly important status following the supreme deity.
The central Yasna ceremony, the ritual that forms the heart of Zoroastrian temple worship, invokes all the major Yazatas by name, offering them both verbal praise and material offerings. During the lengthy liturgy, performed in archaic Avestan by priests who have memorized vast amounts of sacred text, the divine beings are systematically invited to attend, honored with recitations celebrating their powers and functions, and presented with offerings of consecrated bread, milk, water, and the sacred hauma juice. These offerings do not feed the gods in any literal sense, but create connections between material and spiritual realms, channels through which divine blessing can flow from celestial heights to earthly worshippers. The ritual maintains extraordinary continuity with ancient practice, preserving prayers and procedures that reach back thousands of years with minimal change. When a modern Zoroastrian priest performs the yasna, he follows essentially the same order of service, uses the same words, makes the same gestures as his predecessors did in ancient Persian temples under the Achaemenids and Sasanians. This liturgical conservatism reflects the Zoroastrian conviction that these rituals were established by divine authority, revealed to Zarathustra and his successors, perfected through generations of practice until they achieved the forms that most effectively invoke divine presence and secure divine blessing. The role of fire in these ceremonies cannot be overstated. The sacred fire burning at the center of the ritual space serves simultaneously as focus of devotion, witness to the ceremony, and medium of offering. Prayers are directed toward the fire, gestures are made before it, offerings are presented to it. Yet the fire is never confused with the divine beings themselves, never worshipped as though it were Ahura Mazda or the Yazatas. Rather, it represents them, makes them present in tangible form, provides a focus for human devotion and a channel for divine response. Throughout the medieval period and into modern times, Zoroastrian communities maintained these ritual practices despite tremendous pressures and difficulties. After the Islamic conquest of Persia in the 7th century, Zoroastrians faced discrimination, persecution, and forced conversion. Many fled to India, establishing the Parsi community that would preserve Zoroastrian traditions in a new homeland. Those who remained in Iran practiced their religion under increasingly difficult circumstances, facing legal disabilities, social stigma, and periodic waves of active persecution. Yet through all these trials, the fire temples remained open. The yasna ceremonies continued to be performed. The Yazatas continued to receive their appointed honors.
This persistence testifies both to the devotion of the faithful and to the enduring power of the tradition itself. The sense that these practices connected contemporary believers with an unbroken chain of devotion stretching back to the prophet Zarathustra and beyond him to the most ancient Indo-Iranian past. Modern Zoroastrian practice, whether in the Parsi community of India, the remaining Zoroastrians of Iran, or the diaspora communities scattered around the world, continues to honor the Yazatas according to traditional patterns. Daily prayers invoke their names, monthly cycles observe their appointed days, annual festivals celebrate their powers and seek their blessings. The calendar of Zoroastrian observance structures time according to divine beings' patronage, transforming the passage of days and seasons into ongoing conversation with the sacred. The influence of Yazata theology on the development of angelology in neighboring religious traditions represents a fascinating chapter in the history of religions. During the Persian period of Jewish history, when Judean elites lived in Babylon and later returned to Jerusalem under Persian patronage, they encountered Zoroastrian religious concepts that would influence the development of post-exilic Judaism. The elaborate angel hierarchy that appears in later Jewish texts, with archangels overseeing lesser angels and all serving the one God, bears structural similarity to Zoroastrian theology of Ameshuspentes and Yazatas serving under Ahura Mazda. Christianity inherited this developed Jewish angelology and expanded it further, creating complex celestial hierarchies of angels, archangels, and principalities serving divine purposes throughout creation. While Christian theology insisted on monotheism and rejected the veneration of angels as independent deities, the functional similarity to Yazata theology remains striking. Angels serve as intermediaries between God and humanity, each with specific functions and domains, collectively maintaining cosmic order under divine authority. Islamic angelology, developing in close contact with both Jewish, Christian, and Zoroastrian traditions, particularly in the Persian territories that came under Muslim rule, shows similar structural parallels. The archangels Jibril, Mikhail, Israfil, and others serve functions not unlike those of the great Yazatas, mediating between Allah and creation, conveying divine messages, maintaining cosmic order, and protecting the faithful. The continued veneration of Sraosha as the angel Sraosha by Muslims of Iranian heritage demonstrates the cultural persistence of Zoroastrian concepts even after conversion to Islam. These cross-cultural influences do not diminish the unique character of Yazata theology, but rather demonstrate its power to address universal human needs and questions. How does the transcendent supreme deity relate to a man in creation? How do infinite divine power and limited human understanding connect?
How can cosmic forces be understood as both impersonal natural law and personal divine beings capable of relationship? These questions arise in every religious tradition that grapples with monotheism and cosmology, and the Zoroastrian answer through Yazata theology provided one influential solution that resonated across cultural and theological boundaries. In our modern age, when ancient religious traditions face challenges from secularism, scientific materialism, and religious fundamentalism of various sorts, Zoroastrian theology of the Yazatas offers insights relevant far beyond the Zoroastrian community itself. The understanding that divine presence permeates creation, that spiritual forces work through natural processes, that cosmic order has both physical and moral dimensions, that human beings participate in maintaining that order through ethical conduct and spiritual practice, all these concepts speak to contemporary concerns about meaning, purpose, and humanity's place in the universe. The ecological implications of Yazata theology deserve special note. If divine beings preside over earth, water, air, fire, and all natural elements, if these elements are not merely resources to be exploited, but manifestations of sacred presence deserving reverence, then environmental destruction becomes not merely practical folly or aesthetic tragedy, but spiritual sacrilege. The Zoroastrian prohibition against polluting earth with corpses, against defiling water with waste, against extinguishing sacred fire carelessly, all point toward an ethic of environmental stewardship rooted in recognition of nature's divine dimension. Contemporary movements seeking to develop ecological spirituality, to reconnect humanity with natural world, to find religious resources for environmental activism, could learn much from Zoroastrian understanding of Yazatas as divine guardians of natural elements. The theology avoids both the extremes of nature worship that sacralizes wilderness while ignoring human needs, and the anthropocentric utilitarianism that treats nature as mere backdrop for human drama. Instead, it presents cosmos as living system in which divine, natural, and human realms interpenetrate, where proper human conduct supports cosmic order while violation of natural law constitutes spiritual offense. The emphasis on individual moral responsibility, on the cosmic significance of each person's thoughts, words, and deeds, provides another valuable contemporary insight. In an age of mass movements and collective action, where individual agency often feels overwhelmed by vast impersonal forces, Zoroastrian theology insists that every person matters cosmically, that each choice between truth and falsehood tips the balance in the great struggle between good and evil, that no action is too small to count in the ultimate reckoning.
This empowerment of individual moral agency counteracts nihilistic despair while avoiding the arrogance of thinking one can single-handedly transform the world. As we approach the conclusion of our journey through the realm of the Yazatas, we might pause to reflect on what these divine beings represent in the larger context of human spiritual quest. They embody the ancient wisdom that reality is not flat and one-dimensional, but layered and complex, that the visible material world expresses invisible spiritual forces, that behind apparent chaos lies deep order, that cosmic drama gives meaning to individual existence. The Yazatas remind us that we do not journey alone through life's struggles, that divine allies fight alongside human warriors in the battle against evil and chaos, that help is available to those who seek it with sincere hearts and righteous intentions. They teach that every virtue we cultivate, every truth we speak, every promise we keep aligns us with cosmic powers and contributes to the eventual triumph of good over evil, order over chaos, light over darkness.
In the quiet of evening, as the sun sets in the west and the first stars begin to appear in the darkening sky, as the sacred fires are tended in temples around the world and prayers rise in ancient words toward heaven, the Yazatas remain faithful to their appointed tasks. Mithra continues his eternal watch over oaths and covenants. Anahita's celestial waters flow without ceasing. The Sravashis stand guard over souls living and dead. Bharathragna grants victory to righteous warriors. Sraosha patrols the boundaries between light and dark. All the divine beings, from the greatest Amesha Spentas to the most obscure star deities, maintain their vigil, fulfill their functions, support the structure of creation against the forces that would destroy it. And so we leave them, these worthy ones, these beings of worship and veneration, continuing their cosmic work as they have since the beginning of time and will until the final renovation. May their example inspire us to similar faithfulness in our own spheres, to vigilance in our own struggles, to hope in the ultimate triumph of truth over falsehood, good over evil, light over darkness. May we honor them through righteous living, through careful thinking, truthful speaking, and ethical acting. May we recognize in their multiplicity the many faces of divine concern for creation, and in their unity of purpose the single goal toward which all good strives. The ancient fires burn on, the sacred waters continue flowing, the stars maintain their courses, and humanity, that species gifted with consciousness and burdened with choice, continues its participation in the cosmic drama, supported by divine allies, guided by celestial lights, moving toward that distant but certain day when all will be made right, when evil will be finally defeated, when creation will be restored to its original perfection, and when the long struggle will at last give way to eternal peace, joy and wholeness in the presence of Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord, the beginning and end of all. If you found peace in this journey through ancient Persian wisdom, if these stories of divine beings and cosmic struggles spoke to your spirit or calmed your mind as night deepens around you, please consider liking and subscribing to help others find this rest and reflection. May your dreams be peaceful, your sleep undisturbed, and your awakening gentle. May the Yazatas watch over you through the dark hours, as they have watched over the faithful for thousands of years, as they will continue watching until time itself transforms into eternity. Rest now, knowing that light will return with morning, that cosmic order persists despite apparent chaos, that you are not alone in your struggles, but accompanied by forces greater than yourself, aligned with truth that cannot ultimately be defeated. Sleep, and let these ancient truths settle into your consciousness, bringing the peace that comes from recognizing your place in the great story, your role in the eternal drama, your connection to the divine powers that govern and guard all creation. Good night.